There's a movement that's been exploding on YouTube for years. The movement is called No FAP. It's about retention of one's semen, channeling that energy in powerful ways, and everything in between that will help you in your masculinity by retaining your semen. Yes, correct. This is a thing. And it's interesting because as someone that's grown up around church culture, I've seen these different pockets addressed, from things like every young man's battle to every man's battle to born again Christian, to so many different topics around purity, but also avoiding what we call a manual emission. All right. And so this question came in from someone in our live stream, and I wanted to address it because I found it interesting. All right. So this says, "Hey, Ruslan, question." And thank you for the super chat, Tony. "How do you transmute your sexual energy? Creative projects, praying, Bible reading, working out. I'm a biblical semen retention right now." Okay. I've never heard of biblical semen retention right now, but this is fascinating. Okay, so I want to dispel some myths for you guys, and these are important myths, all right? Myth number one, before I get into the particulars of how I do this fascinating act, myth number one is that when you get married, all of your desires for sex magically go away, that you will just have infinite amounts of intimacy with your wife at a beck and call whenever you feel like it. She is just going to be game all the time. I would venture off to say that if you believe that, you're in serious trouble, okay? I've been married for over 15 years, and we are in a space where we have a very healthy intimacy, okay? But it took time to get there. And what's tricky about being married is, one, the expectations that people have going into marriage, but two, the reality of being intimate and then not being intimate at times. This is what I mean. When you're single, you just know, and if you're following Jesus, you just know, well, I'm just not going to get some until I get married, right? And that's it. That's the reality. And then there's the, I am going to avoid corn and math because it's just weird. You're having sex with yourself. What are you doing? Stop that, please, right? You're also going through that, and you just know, okay, there. At some point down the road, I will be intimate and I will get this release. The tricky part is that when you get married, it's stop and go and stop and go and stop and go, right? You don't have any, and you get married, and then you're like, oh, we have a kid. And when you have a kid, what happens? Well, your wife pushes out a human. She's, there's all kinds of things hormonally happening, and she's not trying to give you any vagina because she literally can't. And she's not trying to do other stuff because she just pushed out a human, okay? So you have to go from being sexually intimate with your wife, sometimes for years, and finding that rhythm, to then going 10 to 12 weeks without anything, right? And I'm not saying all wives never want to do anything after, postpartum. I'm just saying most don't. And it's kind of weird for you to like chase your wife around the house as a little horny puppy while, right after she just pushed out a human and she has one attached to her for sustenance, 20 hours out of the day. So that is something that we didn't really talk about that, right? So what happens is we set up a lot of men for these expectations of you're just going to get it and it's going to be indefinite. And the reality is, if you're married, it's not that linear. If you're married, some folks may not want to be intimate when it's that time of the month, right? So you might have a banging sex life 3 weeks out of the month, and then that week comes around and you're like, you're not doing anything. Okay, so the stop and go of married life can be just as tricky as fighting for purity when you're single. Ray Rock, would you agree?
Absolutely.
And this is something that I think we don't tell enough single men ahead of time. Like, if you don't figure out your ability to delay gratification and your ability to control your penis while you're single, just because you get married doesn't mean everything's gonna fall into place.
Nope. And if you have that, your brain is constantly making shorter connections to things that it's connected to a habit. Mm-hmm. And so if you don't put this into a stop mm-hmm. or work on this, mm-hmm. it's going to get worse when you get married.
Yep. It's going to get worse.
It's going to get worse.
Because now your body is used to getting some intimacy.
Yep.
And then no intimacy. And if you don't have your mind in check,
yep.
it could be harder.
Yeah, and here's another reason why it could be worse. On top of the change and rhythm and stuff like that, another reason why it could get worse is because you're setting yourself up for a quicker release, right? You know your body, right, and you interact with your body, and so you're more focused on that. And does that, you think that's going to make you more humble to have the right conversations with your wife to help you get there, right? Because sex is for her as well.
Yep, that's right.
So you might be putting yourself before her,
Right.
and she might be not being pleased in the bedroom,
which is going to just create resentment and make her not want to be intimate if
Absolutely.
you ain't getting the job done down there.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's right. So the question comes back to, how do you transmute your sexual energy, creative projects, praying, Bible reading, working out? I'm a biblical semen retention. So here's the deal. All the above. All the above. And this is what I mean. I mean that when someone is locked in specifically to pursuing their purpose in the season that they're in, all of these different things should be getting sorted out at different times, right? And that God has given us the gift of intimacy within the context of marriage. He's also given us ways to channel the natural level of testosterone that men have, which men, because of testosterone, in their 20s and 30s, tend to have higher sex drives. You know what I mean? And so you channeling these things into things like creative projects or working out, I think is actually a way to mitigate it into more productive things instead of vegging out in a room by yourself on your phone, touching yourself.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so I think it's all the above. And the crazy part is when you're actually tapped into these, not only does it take up your time to not have the capacity to do other stuff that's self-destructive and look at stuff that's self-destructive, but two, there's something hormonal that happens when you start working out, when you start eating right, that as you're dieting down, as you are eating better, as you're pushing weight and lifting weight, your body begins to regulate itself. And that testosterone is literally getting channeled into things, right? And so your testosterone levels will dip. This is crazy. Most people don't know this, is the guys that are the most fit and prepare for, what's that called, bodybuilding competitions, naturally, their testosterone dips. So the leaner you get, the more your testosterone dips, right? So the more in shape you are, the more, the less you're craving a release. That's crazy. Who would have thought that God would have built our bodies that if you go do physical things and lift heavy objects and try not to just gorge yourself with food, the more you do that, oh, interesting, your testosterone naturally takes a dip and then you're not as horny all the time.
Wow, I didn't know that. That's beautiful.
Crazy,
I
right?
love that.
Now, what I'm not saying is that's a healthy place to be. I'm not saying cutting down for a bodybuilding place is a healthy place to be. You don't want to be walking around with abnormal lower levels of testosterone. But it is something to saying when you're actually pushing and lifting weights and training and eating broccoli and chicken, that all of a sudden there's less pent up sexual energy, right? And so I think there's something to that. Now, specifically with, I've never heard of this biblical semen retention. That's something else. But I do think it's interesting that those of us, and not every man has this, but those of us are used to a release, whether it's every couple of days, whether it's once a week, also have nocturnal emissions, right? That God built our bodies with a manual, what is it, manual or involuntarily release valve.
Yep.
That some of you guys, I guess, can just retain semen for a year. Okay. I'm gonna be honest with you. Well, me, if it ain't going down for a week or two, I wake up extremely uncomfortable and with semen on me. You know what I mean?
Cap at 100.
Like, 100. That's what happens. It's called a wet dream for those of you guys that aren't following along. And so it's interesting that God even made it that way, that if you just do your part to not go and do anything crazy, that
yeah, I mean, if you look at the statistics on how much time people spend watching, right? If let's be honest, let me just put myself out there. If Ray Castro, every time he watched back in his past, right, was to devote half the time reading a book, I would be a genius.
Right.
I would be a genius, right? And so I just want to be vulnerable and just not tell you that like we're these people that got it perfect and didn't struggle or make mistakes. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. I mean, I have a whole course about it. I have multiple videos about it as someone that struggled with this being married.
Yeah.
Because, keep it a buck, no one prepped me for these things while I was single. No one told me, hey, man, just so you know, when you get married, like, your wife's not this, like, Christian porn star that's just going to put out whenever you feel like it. Like, that is not what a marriage is. Like, she is not there as your release valve. Like, that's not what it is. And no one told me these things, and these conversations weren't had as often. And this kind of stuff followed me into marriage. Instead of telling me, hey, work out your sexual morality stuff, because just because you get married doesn't mean that it's just gonna naturally go away. Yeah,
and some of these things will affect you. Like for some people, this will affect them in the future with their ED. They'll have like, you can look at the stats and how it is connected to ED. Also, you want to look at this. What happens when you have an unhealthy relationship with these type of releases, right? And statistically speaking, women end up peaking sexually a little later than us, right?
Yep.
And so if we don't have a healthy balance in our life, we're gonna be a poor spouse as well.
That's right. That's right. And check this out. Those of you guys that are like, ew, I can't believe you're talking about it. A high percentage of all males do experience nocturnal emissions at some time in their lives. Ultimately, about 83% of all males have wet dreams. That's a high percentage.
Yeah.
That's a high percentage. So I don't know. I'm not saying all, but a high percentage do. I think God knew what he was doing when he built our body.
Absolutely. I also want people to think about this. This is not, I'm not talking about people who have a lack of self-control and things of that nature. But I think when we don't pursue the most godly things for our lives, right, and other things are ruling our lives, it keeps us away from the things God wants in our lives, right? So like a porn addiction is going to have an effect on how you pick a spouse. There could be a perfect woman for you. You know what I'm saying? But this thing is keeping you because it's giving you a fantasy, something that's not real, and it's keeping you from seeing that right in front of you is the perfect person. And you know what? You're not ready for that person. You know what I mean? And so you'll have sometimes your unhealthy relationship with pornography and masturbation also will delay some of the things that God has for you in your life.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, that's good. I would call it God will allow a lid to stay in certain areas of your life, because if you have these little secret sins and compartments and God allows more blessing, oftentimes those blessings can ruin you if you're not ready for them.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Again, we're not talking to people who are struggling and, but we're just trying to give you information and resources, right? Remember this, that it could be something small, and that thing, at least for me, speaking transparently, porn for me was something that started as something small, private, in secret. And then all of a sudden it became this large thing that was screaming at me that that it would make me bow, that, it would force me to it, because I've given myself so much to it. And it's similarly like that in scripture. Goliath was a baby at one time. Okay. It starts as a baby, something small as a baby, and then it can grow up so big that it can call you out and taunt you. Okay. That's literally how secret sins, small sins become a big thing. Remember, I'll leave you with this, but like throughout the Bible, the Israelites have been fighting the Philistines since the book of Genesis. Okay, God told him to wipe it out, take care of it over there. And then now this thing is so big and it's so large that it's attacking you in the present. And so if you don't take care of this thing in your life today, it's going to hurt your future generations as well, their relationship with sex.
Hey, this is a segment from our daily after party stream. Consider partnering with us online for as little as $5 a month to get access to these daily after party streams completely unedited. You'll also get access to our podcast as they are streamed live into the community before anyone else gets to see them, get to interact with our guests, get access to our private Discord server, and a discount code for our store for as little as $5 a month. Ultimately, that will help towards helping us continue contextualizing the gospel using media and podcast here on YouTube. All right, I'll see you over there. Peace.